Hi everyone, welcome on the Open Podcast with Michael. Today's an exciting day because I have the chance to receive the man behind the song which is playing right now, named Over the Ocean. If you didn't guess who is it, this amazing human being is called Dpak. He is an orchestrator at Disney, a consultant, a singer, a violinist, a multi-instrumentalist, a producer. He is at the frontman of an award-winning electropop supergroup Robot Nature. He has also played with multiple talents like Rihanna and created music for Fox and Toyota. He acted on the show Modern Family and few national commercials like Cadillac, iPhone, and Vitamin Water. We can consider him not as a motivational speaker, but as a love speaker and as a truth seeker. Fueled by his background in engineering, biomedicine, and mathematics, he is also able to use a lot of his rational mind to take part into politics and activism. A reference in health and well-being, he is tuned with his body and is an embodiment of what it is to live in alignment with ourselves. Deepak is also an embodiment of what it is to live from our heart and to listen to our own body. In today's episode, we had the chance to dive deep into the power of the mind, emotion, the masculine and feminine energy, sovereignty, leadership, how everything is interconnected, the power of the presence, and how being a child is a superpower, and so much more. Today's was an important discussion in my own life, and I really hope it will inspire you as well to step into your heart and find your truth. So please, welcome, Deepak.
Doing good, doing good. Good to see you.
Thank you. Welcome on the Open Podcast with Michael. I'm very honored and blessed to have you here. Man, it's just beautiful to see the man you are, and to have you on my show means a lot. So thank you to be there.
Hey, my pleasure to be here. It was great to meet you back in Canada a couple weeks ago.
Yes. So we met 3 weeks ago at the Human Garage event, and maybe we can start there because I'm curious. You were a speaker at the event, and at that moment, just you started and you speak, and the moment you start speaking and doing the violin with you did like a sound which is ma or something like that. I just start crying because it was
Uh,
so beautiful. Honestly, I wanted to know what makes you connect with the Human Garage vision.
yeah, so I mean, I'm really one of my big focuses and passions is on self-empowerment and just, personal responsibility. And I
Okay.
think that, we can really take our lives into our own hands, take our health into our own hands, and Human Garage has really taken that personal sovereignty mentality and applying it into the health space. Which I think is important because I think a lot of the world has become really dependent on outside forces, outside information, whether it's media, government, or school, education, or even doctors. And nothing against, I love doctors, but I'm saying that people still are depending on someone else for their own health and not taking health into their own hands. And so it's like we have a lot more ability to be healthy, and, we can make more powerful choices with our food, our diet, even our stress levels, and healthy water, and not eating processed food, like things like that we can do that would actually prevent a lot of health. And they're not really teaching that as much in schools and in the system and the
Mhm.
governments and all that. They're not teaching that kind of stuff. They're not teaching about vitamins and improving your immune system. So I love Human Garage because they're bringing it back, but in a cool way where it's not like too preachy or woo woo or new age. It's like, hey, this is real stuff. Like, you can actually you can take health into your own hands, life into your own hands, and do that. And I've been talking about this stuff for like since I was a kid, and so I see them, and they got such a big thing going, and I'm like, wow, I'm inspired by them because they're saying a lot of the stuff I'm already saying. Let me align with them because I have a message around the same thing: health sovereignty, taking life into your own hands, but also applying it to everything, like, just self empowerment in general, and whether it's through music or government or anything. So I just like feel like we're super aligned. We're like really close. I like what they're doing, and now I'm just a part of their thing. They're coming to LA. I just got to LA tonight. They're coming to LA tonight, and so and I'm
Okay,
in LA
nice.
right now. So we're all going to be hanging out here, and we got a lot of like we're doing a lot of a lot more collaboration coming up. You'll be seeing me on their Instagram and on their pages a lot more soon because we're working on some collabs together.
Yes, that's freaking nice. And like you said, like it just empowers everyone to step in their own health, and make a difference in their own life. But you said that you start this whole journey of like health and being really aligned with what fits with you since a young age. So how did everything start for you?
Yeah, I mean, when I was super young, I was always, thinking about, what's possible. I always grew up like listening to superheroes stories and comic books, and some of that stuff is like it's like for kids, but to me it was bigger than just being a kid. It was like, that anything's possible. The mentality that anything is possible was always what I was inspired by, reading like big stories, like even like Star Wars, like the Jedi,
Mm,
the Force. I was always like, that's not a story. That's not fiction. This is real. Like to me, it was always real. Like the
mhm.
Force. Like we have the Force,
Yeah.
And then I was learning, and I grew up in Indian culture. I'm Indian. I was born in the U.S., but I have an Indian background, like from India, and a lot of that's very spiritual stories, like the Bhagavad Gita, all
Hmm.
these really powerful spiritual stories about God. And again, it's almost the same as like Star Wars, where like anything is possible. So I have a theme since I was a kid of always being inspired by like really big possibility. And so when I was told when I was young, like, oh, you're gonna get sick or something like that, I was always challenging. I always had a rebellious, like natural, like challenge. I was like, no, I'm not gonna get sick. Or like, don't go out in the cold, go bundle up and wear a bunch of like clothing, like you're gonna get sick in the cold. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And so I would like rebel. I was kind of like a little rebellious kid. Obviously, probably gave my parents a lot of trouble, but I love them dearly. But that
Probably.
said, yeah, but it was all good. It ended up like training me because I went out in the cold, and I went out in there with my shorts and my t-shirt, and I was barefoot in the snow, and I didn't get sick. So I'm like, something's different. There's something there.
The power of the
Like
mind, right?
that, and just like belief. Yeah, exactly. The power of the mind and what you believe. Like if you believe, to me, I was like young. I was like, if you believe you're gonna get sick, you're gonna get sick. But if I don't believe I'm gonna get sick, I'm not gonna get sick. I mean, it was almost that simple, almost like too simple, And I was told like when I was young, like don't stare at the sun, you're gonna go blind. And I was like learning about Egypt and all these Indian stories where they do sun gazing, and I was like, well, how come they're staring at the sun? So I would stare at the sun when I was a kid. I didn't go blind. In fact, my eyes got better, and I felt like I got energy from it. And now I've learned in my adult years that people are doing ice baths and cold plunges now. Like when I was a kid, I thought you're supposed to get sick. I thought you're gonna get frostbite. And now it's a healthy thing. So I'm saying like a lot of the stuff I maybe was intuitive, or maybe it's because I was a rebel. Whatever it was, like somehow it became possible to do anything. Like I was told in school that I was allergic to everything. You go to school in America, I don't know if they do that there too, and you get these little thing on your arm, and it tells you what you're allergic to, and then they're like, you're allergic to cats and bees and evergreen trees and this type of flower, and I'm like, and I was a kid, and I was like, that's weird, like why am I allergic to it? It's
That's
nature,
bullshit.
like. And
Yeah.
exactly. I was like 7 years old, 8 years old, but like I was like only 7 or 8 years old, but I was always rebelling. And I was like walking around in the woods, and I was walking around. They're like, "Don't walk barefoot." I was like, "I'm always walking barefoot." Because it's fun. It feels good. Like I think kids already know like everything. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're a
We
kid,
are
like
the master. We are the learner, I
right.
think.
And then what happens is you go through life, and then life just tells you what you can't do, and then you slowly. So like I think maybe I was lucky or blessed, or I just got the right type of. I took in the right type of information, or I don't know how, but I never lost the possibility. I always believe in magic my whole life, like always. I always believe in magic. I've always believed in like all like this again, the Star Wars and the Force, and like going around, walking around barefoot and staring at the sun, and all the things now that I learned in the spiritual world are really, really healthy things. But I think intuitively as kids love running around like naked and barefoot and being free, and then we get like really like repressed as adults. And I think like bringing that childlike spirit back is like really important. And that's where
Mhm.
I think a lot of the divine intelligence, like you just said, the kids are the masters. Like when we're babies, we're like enlightened masters. Like everyone's born with like ultimate like listening. You're listening from a pure, like innocent, pure beginner's mind space. And if we bring that back into our adult lives, I think we'll have more joy, but we'll also be able to like love more deeply with our hearts, and also learn more, learn faster, because we're not limited. We're not stuck in some sort of box of like, I can't do this and I can't, like, I'm like, I can do anything. Like that's how I feel. I feel like everyone can do everything. Everyone can sing, because everyone's like, oh, you're a singer, you're born with it. I'm like, I mean, I believe I can sing, so I can sing.
Yeah. Yeah, like everything. Like everything is possible. Like you're no different than I am.
Right.
Like, do you understand? We are kind of the same. There is like a big thing in us that is more than what we can see with our little mind. So I'm just curious, when you were young, uh, did you have the dream of becoming like a singer that sing for the truth, and did you have kind of the vision like that to inspire the world? Because I know, and I've heard stories about, you know, in Indian culture, mathematics or science, everything is more prone to being like a doctor or something like this. How did it grow up for you to become this powerful artist?
Yeah, I mean, perfect question. Exactly like you said with the Indian culture, I grew up pretty much on the path. I did mathematics, science. I went to college for neurobiology, physiology, and criminology, criminal justice. So I studied
Okay.
pre-medicine and pre-law. And then I also studied finance, economics, computers, a lot of
Jesus
different
Christ.
things. Yeah, yeah. So I graduated with my degree was in neurobiology, physiology, and all that. So that's the path I was on as Indian. But also, our culture is very well rounded. Also, we do everything. Like we learned music when we were very young. Also, we learned a lot of arts. We learned spirituality, religion. We're like chanting, and especially in my culture, specifically because like India is very big. There's different parts of
Hmm.
India. My
Where are you
family is
from
very like.
exactly?
I'm from South India in a place called Bangalore.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a big city in the south. It's actually known as the Silicon Valley of India. It's where a lot of the tech, all the tech and computer people are from. Like my dad, and my dad's been at NASA. He's a big time tech guy and computers. My mom was in computer science.
Yes,
All that kind of stuff.
my stepfather went there 2 years ago to work there, and my mom went with her to. I don't know if you're familiar with Muji.
I don't know Bunji.
Muji, Mooga. No, so he
Uh,
is like a big spiritual person and
oh,
very into presence. And so yeah, sorry to interrupt. So yes, I'm familiar with
yeah, yeah.
Bangalore.
No, but it's good. It's a good lead in. Yeah, and India's like, talking about India too. Just while we're there, it's such a rich spiritual country, with a lot of deep meditation and yoga and diet and Ayurveda, like the sciences of health and wellness. A lot of that. There's a lot of like deep ancient wisdom there that's still today still strong because it's and they've known it for thousands of years and it hasn't changed because it's been working for thousands of years. So that's something
The
about
truth,
that.
man, the truth.
It doesn't falter, it doesn't falter. So that was my background, was like just that Indian culture again, which is like music, arts, sports, yoga. I played tennis, everything growing up. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I definitely wasn't thinking about being a professional musician at all when growing
Okay.
up, but I enjoyed it. I loved it. I was passionate about music. I love Michael Jackson. Huge fan of Michael Jackson, always singing his songs, like famous bands like Coldplay, like just growing up as a kid, loving all these like big time artists, and then like even Justin Timberlake, stuff like that, like
Yeah.
just like the talent and the dancing and the singing. I was always like doing that stuff too. But for me, music was just more a part of, like, I think most of the people I grew up with, we just do it for fun. It's in
Mm.
school. It's not serious. You're not going to become that later, but it's good to be healthy. It's good to be well rounded. And we did it in school. We call it extracurricular activities, right? Like you do it. It's not like your serious path, but you still do it because it's good for you. It's good for your heart. So it's good. I did like theater in school. As part of class, like we did theater and acting. Like all the drama and the plays, the school play. So I
But
did, I
it
did all
fill
that. I
it
was
fill your heart with joy, like you stay a child
Yeah.
longer.
Yep, exactly. So I did all that stuff, but then when I got to high school, it's like, all right, time to get serious for real life, and that's not music, you can't be, can't be seriously thinking about doing music. So then I started really getting ready for college and, doing my SATs, the standardized tests, and I was playing tournament tennis. I was a really good tennis player, so I was competing in tennis. But also getting ready for academics. I got a really high score on my SATs, perfect score on the math, like perfect 800s and all that. I got into like all these really good schools, and then I went to college. But then, just to answer your question about the music part, college is when I started going, something's different. I can see it. Like I was performing in college in a cappella group. I don't know, a
Okay.
cappella. It's
Yeah.
like all the voices, like the movie Pitch Perfect. The movie
Yeah.
Pitch Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like exactly like that. Like where we had the group and there's like the girl group and the guy group and there's competitions and we're going to different colleges. I literally did that exact same, just like that movie. It's like the perfect movie, for my life because I was in a cappella groups and that's when I started going, music has the power to really transform people. You know, I
Mm.
already felt it as a fan. Like growing up, I was a fan of like Coldplay and Michael Jackson and the Beatles and even old music like Pink Floyd. Like I was like, man, music can move you. Like it inspires you. It can make you feel like, you know, like, oh, I want to do positive things in the world, you know,
It
or
can
whatever.
change the world.
Change the world. Like a good song can change the world. Like, you know, they did We Are the World and Heal the World, and the Beatles like All You Need Is Love, and Bob Marley One Love. Like I mean these are like some of my anthems, and it's like not everybody's anthems, right? These are like anthems for the world. And I was like, damn, that's amazing. So when I was singing in college, I was like, that's amazing. Like you know, I started singing in college, and I seeing the audience was getting like filled with excitement, and they're all singing back, and I'm like, dude, I want to be a part of that. So I think by the time I got finished with college, I was thinking about it as like, there's a little thought in my head, but I didn't know I don't know how to become a professional musician. Then a friend of mine, after I graduated, a friend of mine came to Los Angeles, and then like a year later, he's calling me. He's like, "Yo, have you ever been to Los Angeles?" Like when I was a kid, maybe we went to Disneyland, but I didn't know like what
What?
Los Angeles was
Yes.
all
LA
about.
is big. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was like, "Yo, this is the place. If you're doing arts and acting and music, like there's a lot of like opportunity here." And I was like, I was doing finance and doing all this. Like I was like, "What am I doing?" You know, like, and he's just like, "Just come out here and visit." So I went to visit him, and I came out here for like a week, and I was like, "Whoa, this is the place," you know, because I saw the possibility. I saw that I could
It opens
audition.
up
I
a
can
new world.
Yeah, because I was like, I can compete, you know, like in a positive way, just like competing in sports. I grew up competing. I always loved healthy human competition. It pushes you to be better. It pushes you to mastery. Like I think it's healthy when done with that positive attitude. Like it's not about beating somebody else. It's about lifting myself. Right. That's the mentality. It's
I
not
love
about
that, man.
them.
I
Right.
love that.
So that's like you know when I'm competing, it's because I want to get better, and if I lose, I'm cool because like now I know I can get better. So it's always an opportunity to grow, whether you win or lose. Either way, in fact, you gain more when you lose. You grow more because then you push yourself further. So that's why I always was wired to like because like and you learn like later on entrepreneurs and business people the same mentality. Like Tony Robbins is like we learn more when you fail at business, right? That's true, you know. And I started realizing that's the mentality, the mindset for success is to just love all of it. Like whether you fail or if you fail, love it even more because then you're gonna get better. So I just brought
It's
that
like
energy
that.
with
It's
me.
like that everywhere. Like you lift weight at the gym. The moment you have the most gains is when you fail a rep. Like this is where your muscle
Exactly.
grow the most. So it's like that everywhere in life. I love your mentality around competition because it can, sometime in sports world, because I've grown in the sports world before getting sick or whatever. And if you lose, it means you lose who you are. But no, in fact, it is just a way to become who you are really meant to be, right?
Yeah.
So I love that, man. All right. So
That's the
sorry. Yes, go
that's
ahead.
no, that's perfect. It's a conversation. You know, like
Yeah,
we
you're
both
right.
yeah, yeah. So it was perfect. I mean, like you know, just to bring all of the pieces together because I grew up as an athlete, so I had the competition mentality as a spiritual person, like with Indian background. So I had a very like connection to spirit and meditation and things like that. And then with the music background, I grew up with a lot of like beautiful music, playing music, loving music. And then with the kind of math and science background, that got me really thinking logically and how to plan. So all of those things made me who I am. You know, just like we all are made up. However, our life is, we all have a different path. But we should love. I think we should love every part of it because that makes us who we are. Like, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, no, I'm just a music person. No, I'm all of those things because that's who I am because that's how I got here. And that's I think the true for everybody, right? And so it's like I just was embracing it, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna take that with me. So I came to Los Angeles ready to do music, and but also bring the entrepreneurial spirit, the competition aspect, the logic and the science and math. And it all became sort of like who I am now, which is like more of an artist that's there to do the music, but also to help people with health and wellness and my science and pre-med and all the stuff I did. I can now do that. But music is the vessel to reach more people. I can reach more people with an amazing song. Like you said, a song can change the world. Well, imagine now as these songs get bigger and bigger, I have more ability to reach more people, and then I can inspire hopefully people to just take a journey into self empowerment, to mindset, you know, to step up their mindset and be like a positive mindset entrepreneur, the winning mentality, to think more positive, to get into spirituality, meditation, breathing, improve their diet, and we can really change the world in a very positive way. You know, and that's kind of like my goal. You know.
That's nice, man. Because I share the same vision also on motivation and like being really driven. So like I said, I come from a background where at 7 years old, I made a commitment with myself. I will become a national hockey player. And at 19 years old, just to be real quick, my whole body shut down with COVID vaccines and mononucleosis at the same time. So a lot happened. I'm still on my journey to recovery, but I've learned on myself that all my motivation, yes, I had a lot of patience, passion, but there was also a part that was serving me so that I can feel enough and that I can feel love. I'm just
Mm.
curious to know, are you aware where your main driver come from? And if yes, like what is it exactly? Do you have like some of the, not of the bad motivation, but a motivation that may be more fire that you have to keep in your awareness to keep in a safe place so you don't like backdraft your own self?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's this, I think it comes back to that childhood vision we were talking about, where I was inspired always by the Force, Star Wars, or superheroes, and infinite possibility. And I think just maintain, I think a lot of my energy comes from just like being really excited genuinely to share and to push the boundaries of possibility. I'd like to see how much more I can increase my possibility, like my mind, or something physical, or something spiritual, or something musical, or in the world of music, like, oh, setting goals, like, oh, I'm excited to headline Coachella, or like to sell out the Hollywood Bowl, like a big stadium, and those kind of things, just are very, like, fun. And I'm not attached to it like and from a negative place, like, oh, I have to have the goal. It's more like, wow, that would be really. I like to come things from like an imagination. Like, I'm using my imagination. Like, oh, that would be so much fun. And then when I am imagining it, I'm actually in my mind. I'm like playing a whole concert sometimes in my head, and it feels like really like I can see the whole thing in front of me all the time. And a lot of the things I've seen over the years have happened now. It's like almost like I imagine I've imagined certain stages that I've never been on in my head, and then I got there and I was like, wait a second, I saw that like 10 years ago. I remember that, and that's happened a lot, so I think a lot of my drive just comes from like just really like allowing, not and trying to allow my mind to just get quiet and like move out, like let my mind move out of the way so I can
Mm.
like just listen and see almost the future, but almost see infinite possibility, like see just people singing my song back to me and me singing together with them. I don't like I go into these spaces where I'm seeing millions of people all singing a song, and then I like start asking myself, what is that song? I may not know what the song is yet. Like, what is that song? What are they singing? And as I ask myself, then I'll start hearing the song like it's being written, but I'm not writing it. I'm just listening to the future, maybe, and
Mm-hmm.
then like I'll hear it, and then I'll be like, oh, cool, that's what the song is. And then I'll like record it on my phone, or if I'm in my car, I might like record it on my phone, on my little iPhone recorder, or if I'm in my like, I might just get the idea down, right? And then it just comes from there, and then I just start. Then I jump in the studio. I got the studio right here. I
Yeah.
jump on in. I play all the stuff. Play the piano. Play the guitar. The drums. Bass. I play like 20 instruments. I can do it all by myself. Like kind of Prince a little bit, where I can just get in my own zone by myself and just like lay down all the ideas. So that's kind of like that's what motivates me. But that's kind of like my flow in general.
That's nice. That's nice. And I think that by embodying this child again, you step into creativity and you become one with spirit or God, or I don't know how you call it or how the people who listen will call it, but there is something bigger in my mind.
Right.
And
Right.
silence has always been big for me. And during my 3 years of sickness, I've delved deeper into silence, meditation, and it plays a major role in my life. In fact, when I decided to go on the Human Garage tour, it went during a meditation. And
Mm,
at that point, I decided to follow the path to become a fascial maneuver therapist, whatever.
amazing.
And yeah, it's kind of cool. And to use, like, you're probably familiar with Mozart. He has a quote who said something like, music is not like the notes, but the space between the
The
notes,
space.
the space
Yep.
between, yes. So I'm curious, you talk about spirituality, silence, and to letting everything, to allow everything to come. What is the role of silence in your life, and how do you let silence come in?
Yep, that's like one of the biggest things is silence. And so a lot of the meditation I've done is the space where you're sitting in silence. And in the silence, then something fills the silence, which is consciousness. And then as we observe the consciousness, it dissipates like clouds once again back to silence, and then it comes back and then goes back to silence, which is sort of what consciousness is. And underneath and in those little small little magical spaces of nothing is where everything is. You
Mm.
know, that's where everything is in the nothing. And so that's what I was kind of even describing when I like let my mind kind of clear. I go to silence, and then all of a sudden I hear everything. Like I might hear the song, or I might feel my energy, or I might like get a download, as people call them, or whatever it is. Like things come in.
You
In
channel
it's
them.
almost like you're opening the space like a vortex channel, and uh like the mind again, it's our own minds are going to be limited because they're basically things that we remember or things that are coming from the future. They're all thoughts, but the second our own mind gets out of the way, infinite can come in, and from infinite, that's the force. That's like literally that's what Yoda's trying to teach. Like in the
Yeah.
Star Wars,
Yeah.
he's like quiet your mind, and then you go beneath the limitation, and all of a sudden now you can lift. You know, you've seen Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he can lift. He's able to lift the stone. I think we can do that. I don't think that's magic. I don't think that's a movie. I think we can do that right here, like
I
for
would
real.
love you to be the first singer to move thing with your head on the stage. It could be funny.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it'd be cool to do it on stage. Yeah, yeah. I think some of that stuff, it's like it's not meant for show, but at the same time, it could inspire people too. Like it's like both. I can
Mhm.
see it. As long as so, if I had to do it on stage, I would have to get my own ego out of the way to even be able to do it.
That's
Right?
the trick.
That's
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 the
the
trick.
paradox. So I
Yeah.
would have to genuinely do it from a place of like dropping it, like not to show people, and then it would. But then you'd have to trick yourself. You know, you'd have to trick yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, and it become a routine. Like
Yeah.
just before we enter this conversation, I took like in fact you enter when I was doing it. I just take a
Oh yeah.
moment to enter in contact with something bigger, and I'm trying to ask spirit or God or the universe to just come with us so that we can serve more people. So that not my podcast. Like of course it is fun if I have people looking to my podcast and my audience is growing, but my intention is how can I serve with this conversation and how can I serve Deepak to help more people? How can we serve the world together? And this is why I've connected so much with the moment you start speaking at the Human Garage stuff, because I felt the same thing. It was not see who's Deepak, like I'm famous, I'm big, I know how to sing. It was like just the truth. So do you have anything to not a tricks or what is your way to put your mind in the right kind of framework to sing, act, play, create from this space instead of the ego place?
Yeah. I think
And sorry,
there's a.
not to say that the ego is wrong. In fact, nothing is wrong, but it
Yeah.
is
I no.
limited.
I understand. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
And exactly. Um. There's a word in Sanskrit. You know the language, you've heard of Sanskrit, right? It's the ancient language from India.
Yeah.
Right. So, and for the audience, Sanskrit is the ancient language from India that's in a lot of the scriptures, the texts. It's a very ancient language, and they say, and I was talking about this actually at Human Garage a little bit for a second, that this language came from vibration, and it came out of nothing, and came from the space, the silence we just talked about, and from that came vibrations that have meaning that actually affect the body and also are like casting magic spells, or like just spells, not magic, but just spells. They're like the words are spells. And so for to answer your question, the one of the words from Sanskrit is called seva, and
Okay.
seva means selfless service, meaning you're truly getting out of your own way and you're doing it purely for service, to serve the people, to serve the planet, to serve the divine higher good that's bigger than ourselves. And so that's sort of like even like you said, like when I came in and you were in the silence, you were in that space, you were in the space of, okay, I'm going to now enter seva. We call it seva consciousness, the
Mm.
consciousness of being in service. And that's what I like to think is like the place I want to go to all the time, like all day. Like while I'm writing the music, I'm not writing the music. I'm just being in service. Whatever needs to come through, comes through. When I'm on stage, I'm not planning my talk. I didn't plan for this interview. Like we're just having a conversation. Both of
Mhm.
us are, and we're both in the place of seva. And then whatever comes through is the divine, is whatever's meant to be coming through, and it's for the highest good. And I'll keep asking something bigger than myself. Hey, allow me to be a vessel for the Most High. to be the highest possibility of serving the people, serving the world, serving nature, serving God, serving the space, serving energy. Like, just allow me to just to be that in the best way I can, whatever that looks like. And I trust that it's whatever's meant to be, instead of me going, but I want it to be like this. I want to be a rock star. I want it to. No, what if I'm not? Like, if next week the divine calling is for me to go to the woods and write a book, I'll do it. Like, I'm not like attached to being like some kind of big musician. I don't really care. I'm just literally here to be in service, and it just so happens that that's what's happening right now. Is it's leading me to bigger shows and events and things like that. But if suddenly the next step is something different, I'm fine with that. If I'm meant to go be in the hospital and be a doctor, I'm totally fine. But the universe is saying something different right now, so I'm just following. I'm just listening. You know?
And how do you deal with like maybe the positive criticism? Like how do you allow a space for being proud for Deepak, while still being in a place of service? Like, because you don't want also to, it can look like for some people like spiritual bypassing, when they just like put their self aside and like I'm devoted to God, but they just deny their own self. So how do you deal with it, and how do you let the space for love for Deepak, love for what he's doing, for what he's creating?
Yeah. Another great question. So that's the human part, right? So the intention part is one aspect, right? So I'm setting the intention of being the channel to be in service, but the thing that's still doing it is me inside of it. So they're
Mm.
both existing at the same time. So there's a me that's a vessel, and the vessel is a spirit inside of a body that has a mind and it has these things. And these things that I have, like we all have them, we're not those things. I'm not my body. I'm not my mind. I'm not those. That's the reason we say that we have a body. You don't say that I am the body. You say we have a body. It's like it's my body. It's a thing. Well, who's the my? The my is the divine spirit inside of all of this that has these pieces. And so that's the aspect of that I get to experience, is like, oh, my intellectual self has a reaction to life happening, and it's analyzing and thinking about stuff. So I'm going to honor my mind. My emotional self has feelings of joy or sadness or anger. I get to honor my emotional self, and they're all aspects of the self. My body has things that it's experiencing. It's experiencing heat or cold, or it's experiencing tightness or tension or energy, and I get to honor those things. And my spirit is inside of all that, just sort of overlooking and just doing its best to oversee all of it together. And so that's what the combination is. So I'm going through life, like I'm setting the intention, I'm going to be the vessel, I'm going to be in service, and then I'm going to allow myself to go through it. Now, as I'm going through it, each of my pieces are feeling stuff. They're feeling joy, they're feeling celebration, they're feeling excitement, or they might be feeling sadness, I might feel compassion, they might feel all these different things, and the emotional feel it, and then the body will respond, and then the thoughts will kick in, and all these different aspects of the self start operating together like a master supercomputer. And so that's sort of like how I look at that, is like, yeah, I mean, and all that, I'm in the moment feeling all of those things. Deepak is here feeling a range of emotions, a range of excitement, a range of energy shifting, and it's expanding energy or contracting energy or whatever it might be. And just being present to all that and allowing that allows me to feel all of it. So then, because spiritual bypass would be like ignoring all those things. Then you'd be like, oh, I'm not supposed to feel sad. That's no, like because it's bigger. But that's cerebral. That's an intellectual thought to avoid something, and really all you're doing is actually suppressing, which is avoiding the shadow. And then that's how you actually create more trauma. Spiritual bypass leads to more trauma, because later on, whatever you can't eventually you can't avoid it. It's like a pressure cooker. It's going to start filling up over time, and then eventually something's going to explode. So you have to actually, if you're in the moment, really feeling, then you're actually like breathing in and breathing out and feeling joy and feeling sad and crying when you got to cry and laugh when you got to laugh. And then you're feeling, in fact, you're living life like fully, like, and like, again, like a baby's laughing and crying and stuff like that. I try to bring that, like, back to the beginning of the conversation. I try to bring the baby consciousness into the moment. That's where I'm feeling all that's the best way, if I can explain your question, is like I'm feeling all of it, like very extremely.
You allowed everything to be without judging it as wrong, and that's
Right.
that's that's the crazy part, and that's often where we struggle, I think, and where I struggle personally. Like all my life, anger, sadness was bad, because it means that I'm not inspiring the world, I'm not being this bright light. And 2 months ago, when I started doing the human garage stuff to release emotion, I went really deep into the psychosomatic, and I made link between the disease I'm going through and um, the repression of my emotion. And once I started to really sit with those emotions and allowing them to be in my body, man, I've never felt so much anger like during the past few weeks. And you're like, what the fuck? It's like I will do whatever it takes to feel them, but it can be quite challenging. But when you allow everything to be, you don't need to go there. You just live it each second of the moment. And I think this is what presence is. Being present is allowing everything to be. And I love the way you flow through that without, like, an emotion is created to be like 90 seconds in our body or thing like this, and when we hold it on, like, it stays longer and it becomes depression or repressed anger and stuff like that. But when you just do like you did all your life, and like a child, you play with it, you experience it, life become a game. Have
Totally.
you ever have did you were you always did you how can I phrase that one, like, was it always easy for you to jungle and to play with those emotions, or you have like this some kind of struggle where you feel lost in it?
Actually, it's an interesting question because I've actually the emotion has always been that's the piece. I was talking about breaking it down, right? There's the body, the intellect, the emotion, these different things. Emotion was always the one that was the most challenging for me to be with until more in the last like 10 years. So like
Okay.
as a kid, I was definitely being in the playfulness, like a kid and everything and all that. But I think when negative things happened when I was a kid, I wasn't probably processing those then. So I built up actually a lot of trauma in my body on the sad part. So I was like really good with the playful stuff as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was unaware, but I was probably spiritual bypassing for like from a young age all the way to maybe my 20s, right? And not realizing it. Because I was just like, no, everything's all good. It's all good. It's all perfect. I'm
Yes.
superheroes. I'm
Yeah, right.
superhero.
You're
Like
Superman, man.
yeah, like I'm just following the comics, and I'm just like being a superhero. And I get, of course, the benefits where I learned possibility, I learned to have a good mindset, all those kind of things. But the negative part was I wasn't dealing with the negative emotions during all those years. But at least I learned. It's like, again, everything has its time, right? So like the benefits, like you learn. We call them strong suits. Like you get stronger from certain things. Like I was bullied in school, and stuff like that. But at the time I was just being a superhero, so I didn't experience this. I didn't allow myself to feel the sadness. I was just like, oh, whatever. It doesn't mean anything. They're being crazy. And then the funny thing is, it ended up working to my benefit because the bullies got bored. They're like, let's bully somebody else because I wasn't giving them the reaction they wanted because I was like laughing or something, and they were just like, oh, ended up, pushing away the bullies mentally, which it wasn't the plan. But at the same time there was a bit of sadness that I didn't get to feel at the time, because I was like not fitting in or I'm not good enough or I'm not being accepted. Those type of emotions hit me later. And I was like, oh, wait. And so I ended up going through a lot of deep meditation, a lot of inner spiritual work later. And I
Mm.
ended up having a lot of anger and sadness like came out of me. And I processed it all through deep emotion, through heavy duty breath work. I did a thing called the Hoffman process, which is like a childhood, when you go back to childhood. I did a lot of that type of work later, and that allowed me to like clear my decks. And I'm still, even now, like like I think we get to still constantly be aware of like, oh, what else is there more in there, because there's probably more in there. There's things that to clean out, from past memories or childhood or something from my
Or
parents I don't remember,
collective.
maybe. Right. Right. Stuff from in the world, right? Like our past
Yeah.
lives. Who knows? Like there's
Yeah.
stuff there's always more. So so I wouldn't say it was always been easy. I think what's been easy for me is mentally being in like the superhero like mentality has always been easy. Thinking about possibilities and always like anything's possible, anything's possible. That one sort of came natural to me, I would say. And magic and stuff like that. But then the toughest part that I'm working on and I have to work really hard on is emotional availability, emotional connection, dropping into my heart more. I'm very like intellectual, cerebral. So I'm really like spending a lot of my energy like being in emotion more in the second half of my life now,
And what was the catalyst for you to go on that journey?
A relationship. Like my first girl, she like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get it at the time. I didn't get it. I was like with my first girl and we were like together for a long time, for years, like from age 17 for like 8, 9, 10 years, right? And that was like my first big relationship. We were like just like beginning of college all the way through adult like it's like life, and came to Los Angeles together. And I think something towards the end of the relationship like was being said, and I don't think I got it yet, but it was something around like not being emotionally connected. Like I need more like something like I need more emotional connection. I need more emotional availability, like things like that. And I didn't process. I probably didn't understand at the time what that even meant. And I was just like, what do you mean? Everything's great. I'm being awesome. I'm doing these good things and I'm helping. And I'm like, we're doing a great thing. And it was like, maybe a person needs to feel a deeper connection. And I didn't know what it was, but I think that heartbreak led to me going, huh, something obviously is missing, and I want to take responsibility for that. I don't know what that is, so I became like a seeking journey. Like I'm like, let me discover what that is. And it took me down like rabbit holes of studying relationships and studying females and studying like a lot of the books like about that are out there, and like learn like going YouTube and watching things about communication and relationships. And I started going, oh, interesting. It's very much like stereotypical male and female, that the female wants emotion and the male is very much not connected to emotion. This is like, I'm realized this is throughout human history. This is a very common thing. So I wasn't the only one. It's like almost everybody. And so I just like made it a mission. I was like, oh, let me learn this early. I don't want to like go through my life. Like I see all these people online. They're like 50, 60 years old. And the same thing, like men are complaining, like, why are women like this? And women are like, why are men like this? And I'm like, I don't want to like be stuck in that when I'm like 50 or 40 or something like that. I want to like, let me learn about this now early. So I started right as soon as I could, and just goes, wait a second, emotional availability. We have that. Like men can be emotional, and we can tap into that and actually then connect from a more compassionate and softer place. And then it's going to help the relationship. And then now I'm in an amazing relationship, and like I figured out, and I'm still learning all the time. And when I'm in relationship, I'm learning every time something might come up. Maybe like an old pattern, I might still hold on to my ego, and I'm like, and try to be right. Because we want to be right. Like everyone's trying to be right all the time. That's all argument is, whether it's women or politics or, it's people just trying to be right. And I realize there's a relationship. I think line I learned is like in the relationship, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Oh,
And I was like,
you
whoa,
have the
that's
choice, man.
interesting. Right. And I was like, I think I'd prefer happiness, which means you're letting go of the ego. You're letting go of like proving someone wrong or like winning the argument. And that's like this is like the most, I'm just talking basic, like almost every relationship has this topic. Every single relationship talks about this stuff. And I like realized like everyone's going through the same pattern. Let me at least do my best to learn about this and become better. That's all. So I'm like, every day is a learning experience. Every day in relationship is a learning experience. Every day in life's a learning experience. And so that's the emotional catalyst for me, was relationship specifically. And then it helps now because that allows me to be better. Even if I'm not in a relationship now, I'm more emotionally connected as a male, as a human, but also that connects me to my music as an artist. It brings them, because music has to be emotional. Because maybe I was playing the music before I was playing it well. I was doing all the right notes or something like that. Maybe it was sounded perfect, but maybe I wasn't communicating a powerful message as efficiently as like now. I don't care about the notes anymore. I'm just like here to just share my heart, and if it comes through, it comes through, and then that's it, and just focus purely on the emotion, and it changed my music career.
Of course it did, because I think you bound to something way more authentic with yourself, which is, I think, I will speak for myself. in Canada. I don't know everywhere in the world, but probably in the US too. There is like a big kind of movement around toxic masculinity, I think, where it's become very hard for men, and we don't speak as much as we should speak. And we feel we have a lot of pressure, I think, to be a certain way, to look a certain way, to be strong, to not cry, because tough men don't cry, and all that bullshit, and work hard, and you're supposed to fix everything, and it can be really challenging. So as a man, I've seen it with myself. So I had my puberty really, really lately, and like I remember just a cute girl saying to me like, "You are cute, but you look like a child," and I was like 17 years old. So it's really hard at that time. So I'm like, okay, I see. So to become a man with a values, I need like to have big muscle and to be performing and stuff like this. If you had like one thing to say to all the men in the world, what would it be? I'm curious.
Yeah. I would say step into vulnerability and surrender and be okay with all of it. But also recognize that there is a role still in this world for men, and that a lot of that's being chipped away at. I think the role of men throughout history and nature, and even in all of nature, the lions and the bears, is to be a protector, and that's part of it. But a lot of times as men, we're thinking, oh, I have to be the protector, so in order to be the protector, that means I have to be a rock and I can't be vulnerable. I think we have to know that. I like to think of masculine and feminine as not a man and a woman, but just energies.
Yeah,
There's
yeah, yeah.
masculine
We have
energy
all
and
the
feminine
two polarities.
energy. So the purpose of masculine is like a glass of water, like is a glass, it's the structure, and it's like it's a strong boundary, it's the protection. And then you put the feminine, which is the water, inside the glass, and that's the two parts. So the glass is the masculine, and the water, the liquid's the feminine, and they need each other. The
Mm.
water needs a glass to be put into, and the glass by itself is just a glass. It's just sitting there. But if the glass is weakened, then you have holes in the glass. The water will come out, and that's the thing that's happening with masculinity on the planet right now. Is that the protection energy is being made to be negative in the public eye, in the media, and all that stuff. It's like, oh no, you're this is not true. Women need to be like this, and women are becoming more masculine in a lot of ways because they feel like they have to, because society's telling them to, and men are becoming a little bit weaker and more feminine in a lot of ways because society's telling them to. But it's not about necessarily about what's right and wrong, and I don't think there's an absolute for this, but I think that we should embrace being okay with being in a lot of the nature's energy of like being, hey, I'm just here as a protector. Doesn't mean it's here to protect women or protect men. No, it's just the protector energy, whatever that is. It could be protecting anything, protecting your house, protecting your thoughts, protecting your ideas, protecting your boundaries. It's just and again, and anyone can have that type of energy. So that's what I'd say. Like, men is just like, remember who you are.
Mm.
Remember that we are able to be protectors as energies for the world. And if that happens to be with a woman or a man or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's just for the world. We're protectors. And then also inside of that protection, we also have our own water, our own emotions that we get to like nourish and listen to and be with, and then share them in a powerful way. And I think balance is key, but we don't want to like feel bad about one or the other. We have to like embrace both and still own who we are.
Yes, and that's beautiful. And I've heard you speak on another podcast recently talking about um, how it can be used for the plan or for something to separate or create division in the world. So we are in an era where everyone seems to put something wrong at some place in their life. So now, woman, it's wrong to just be a mother, and man, it's wrong to just work hard, and wrong is like everywhere. And in less
Yep.
than 2 months, it will be the election in the world. And I know that you are very tuned to what is aligned with you and what you feel can be great for this world. And I really am aligned with your vision too. Can you get more into how how do you see like how everything is going right now, and how do we have a space to reclaim our home sovereignty and our own power in this world right now?
Absolutely. Another great question. I think right now the world, I think I was hinting at it a little bit earlier in this particular conversation, that there's an outsourcing of energy happening where people are now looking a lot outside for answers, looking for someone else to lead. The government, this next politician, the next false idol, the next leader, the next, other person. But they're not looking like, how can I lead myself? How can I step into my own leadership as a person, lead myself, lead my own happiness, lead my joy, take lead over my control over my thoughts and my emotions, like take full personal responsibility for who we are. Because at the end of the day, like everyone's, a lot of people are in conversations like, they made me feel like this, or I'm mad at that person. It's a lot of blame mentality. And I would call it the victim consciousness versus the empowerment consciousness. And the empowerment consciousness is say, hey, no one can, no, if someone says like F you to me, they didn't hurt me. I can only allow myself to be hurt. Now, I'm not talking from a spiritual bypass perspective, because if I feel hurt, I should embrace my sadness and
The
my
feeling,
anger.
yeah.
But I'm still saying that I'm still responsible for that, even if it is sad. Just own it. I'm not saying avoid it. I'm just saying own it. Like, hey, I was triggered, instead of going, they did this to me, and just shifting the language. So I think that's what I look at it. Like, whether it's the election coming up or anything else, it's still everyone's like focused on a show that's outside of themselves, and they're getting caught up and emotional watching a show. And there's a feeling of like helplessness, like there's nothing we can do, and everything's dependent on what happens out there. And I'm like, not really. I think everything's dependent on what we do, what each of us does. And I think the message that I would have, and the message that I'm sharing as much as I can, and I'm in a lot of, I mean, I know I'm very tied in with politics. I'm friends with a lot of high level politicians. I'm close with some of the top politicians in the world. Like, these are people I talk to, like, you know, I don't want to name names, but I'm like literally some of the top people that you're seeing right now on TV are people I know personally. And I think my message, even to them, is, and they're not listening, but my message to them would be to just share that message with the world, because all of them are saying, when I get into office, I'm going to do this, and I'm like, that's cool, that's great. They should be speaking for themselves, but they should also add one more piece, which is, and by the way, all of you should also be working on what you're
Oh
going to
man,
do.
yeah.
Just add
Amen.
that extra piece. You know, that's the piece that's missing, because they're saying, I'm going to do this, which is great, because I'm going to say the same thing. I'm going to do this. I'm going to play the next show. I'm going to go to Human Garage. Great, great, great. And I want to encourage everyone else. And by the way, you should all be leading your lives too. And then we can all together play, like in the playground, like a bunch of kids. Let's all play together from the highest potential possibility, from the highest level of power, by each of us doing that. But right now, everyone's like, there's a bunch of people that are spectators that are watching, and there's a bunch of people that are leading, that are like over leading, and there's an imbalance between over leading and over following. It's an imbalance. I think we need to get back to like everyone not leading others, and each person leading themselves together. And then we now have community, and now we can all talk, like you and I can talk to each other as individual leaders that are complete. Like, I'm complete in myself, you're complete in yourself, and now together we can share ideas, we can help with the world, we can help with health and consciousness and stuff like that. I think that's what's really important right now, especially right now. Like, it's another election, it's another, to me, a distraction, and it's
Mm.
all an election selection, siphoning our energy and sucking everyone's attention, and everyone's watching the show, like watching Game of Thrones or some reality show, when instead we are all characters too. We're all in the play together. So like, I'm showing up at political events, and I'm getting on stage. Like, I got a big political event next weekend called the Independent National Convention. A lot of famous politicians will be there.
Okay.
I'll be on stage talking and speaking. I'm actually bringing Gary from Human Garage with me.
Nice.
So I introduced him to the political space, because I'm really deep in that world, and I think the political space needs the deep emotional healing.
Of
so
course, of
so
course.
so I'm like, let's take that there. So I'm coming there with that message, and I'm speaking. I speak a political language too, because I have a background in a lot of that history, economics, politics, so I can speak their language. But so I can get on. That's how I got myself in there, and then I kind of like I got myself on the inside, and I can just kind of sneak in consciousness messages where it's needed, and then so that's kind of like my little trick I'm doing. Got myself.
It's so curious because are you familiar with the quote of Steve Jobs, like you can only connect the dots looking backward, not looking forward?
I mean, that makes sense to me. I don't know that name, but that makes sense.
All right, so that quote make a lot of sense with your story right now because if we engineer backward, we can say that your background in human engineering and all this cool stuff prepared you to become the man you are today to make a change in the world.
Totally.
Isn't it like mind blown to see how life can just create through you?
It's amazing. It's amazing. And it's like, that's what I was saying earlier, is like, we get to embrace all of it. Like, I'm not going to say, no, I'm just a musician, I'm just that. That's what I was saying like a while ago. It's like, no, we're all those things. I mean, like, all those pieces led to it. And I was obsessed with economics and history and politics and learning geopolitics. And I spent years learning this stuff and studying the Declaration of Independence, which, and the code and the Constitution. I've read all of these documents, like front to back, all of it,
Damn
and
it.
just look, I've sat there just decoding the stuff, like sitting there, like almost like a mad scientist, like that Beautiful Mind movie. Like, I've put stuff on my desk all over the place, and I'm like, I got pen and I got markers and highlighters, and I'm like, I got the Bible open. I got the Bible open next to the U.S. Constitution next to all these, I'm saying, like, it's like that kind of vibe, and I'm sitting there like going crazy, like, I remember, like, that was like all through my early, like, like 19 years old, 20 years old, 21. That's what I was doing. It was decoding the world, like, spending my time figuring out, like, oh, what's going on here, and that's what led to like this obsession with communication, like how to now communicate messages of spirituality to people that might think that's woo woo, that's some crazy new age stuff. Okay, let's speak it in the language for the people you're listening to, because everyone speaks a different language. So let me figure out all the different languages so I can communicate better. So if I'm in a political audience, I'm going to speak the political language. If I'm in a spiritual audience, I'll talk a little bit more about energy and chi and prana and chakras. And if I'm in a scientific audience, I'm going to talk a little bit more about, double-blind controlled experiments and how we can do isolation of different bacteriophages inside of a centrifuge, a test tube. It doesn't matter if I'm talking sports language. We're going to talk about wins and goals and runs. We're gonna snap into like whatever language is needed to deliver the message the most powerful way. And that's why I think this, you know, to the bigger question we're talking about, what's going on in the world right now, the next 2 months in politics, it's like it's really important now because everyone's so focused on politics. It's like, well, then while everyone's got their attention, let's at least get a message out to those people that could at least snap them out of their matrix, because if everyone's staring at the screen
It's just
right
a
now like
distraction.
zombies, yeah, everyone's staring at the screen like zombies, yelling at this person on one side, or yelling, they watch the debate and they're yelling at one half's yelling at one side, the other half's yelling at the other side. It's like, if there's a way to get in there and be like, hey guys, we got all this, we're good,
Wake up.
we don't need all these people. We don't need to focus on the next president. We need to focus on each being our own president. The president, I'm the CEO and president of Dpak, and I get to choose like where I get my joy from and where I get my food from, and who I hang out with and what I do today, like how I design my day so it's the most amazing day ever. And I think that's the mentality. I think we're at a point where the world is ready for a consciousness shift. Like, we're ready for it. And I think that's the thing I'm focused on, is like, if we can use the politics energy to get in there and reach more people, then I'm all for it. But I don't see too many people in there doing it, so I'm gonna go do it. So, I'm
Okay,
just gonna
man.
go. Yeah, and in a couple of weeks I'm gonna be at probably one of the biggest events. There's gonna be about 400,000 or 500,000 people in
Oh shit.
in in Washington D.C. It's a massive political event, and I've been invited to be one of the main people on stage. And it's going to be Bobby Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, Russell Brand. I'm doing a collab with Russell Brand. It's a lot of people that are going to be together. And Russell Brand is actually one of the people I'd say is speaking in a consciousness to these people. He's kind of doing similarly to what I'm trying to do, and he's obviously already reached a bigger audience. But I'll be in front of that same audience, and I'm going to do my best. And I'm bringing Gary with me from Human Garage to that event too. So
I'm
so
pumped. I'm pumped, man, for that. It just gave me
yeah, yeah.
chills. That's nice.
You're gonna be hearing about this one. This is gonna be big. It's called Rescue the Republic,
All
and
right.
it's literally like it's a massive political event, but it's not deemed as a political event because they're really just saying they're not endorsing anybody. It's not about any sides. It's about, hey, as a team, as a humanity, we need to stand up against these industrial complexes and war and all of these things that are happening, that these powerful entities are doing, that we didn't sign up for. We didn't agree to wars, but they're happening, and we're not able to do anything about it. Let's band together as humans and stand up against that. Because if the only way to do it is if we get more and more people to do something, then we can stop wars.
Yes,
So
and at the end of the day, there is no side. There is no left or right, vaccine or no vaccine, vegan or
yep,
carnivore. Like, we are all human, and that's fucking
exactly.
beautiful about your message. It's not like, oh, so if you don't do this, you are that. No, no, fuck that. We are all human, and we are here to serve humanity and to bring love. That
That's
that
it.
ju- could you imagine if Donald Trump would just say that to the TV, like, bring the love in? How
Yeah,
beautiful
and
would it be?
I'll be honest, he does actually say that sometimes. It is, he
Okay.
does. There's a bunch of videos of him talking about that stuff, but they censor those. So,
Hmm.
and I'm not a Trump fan. I'm just saying
No, no.
honestly, like,
Yeah.
I'm saying the good stuff's being covered up intentionally. Like, even if someone is doing the good stuff, like, it's not being broadcasted,
Hmm.
to the media. because the media is controlled, in my opinion, by higher entities that want to create the division, because it's easier to control people when there's division. If you confuse everybody and if you get everybody fighting, it's a lot easier to then come in and then bring the solution, because
Mm.
if you're causing the problem and you're also causing the solution, then everyone's going to buy it. Everyone's going to buy the next thing. Everyone's going to pay for the next medicine, the next pharmaceutical drug. Everyone's going to sign up for more government and more control, because they think, oh my God, it's chaos. It's chaos. We need more government. But ironically, it's being caused by the same people. So it's like it's all a trick. And I think that's the matrix. Is like, wait a second, we're only going to be a subject and victim to it if we participate in the matrix. We don't have to participate in the matrix. We can participate in self-empowerment. We can participate in going in nature. We can
Mm.
participate in eating our own healthy food. We don't have to participate in this crazy energy. We're not required to. We're all choosing to. And that's why I think having the story of like the government made me do it, or the media made me do it. No, still, at the end of the day, it's still up to each person to choose what they're listening. You're the one who turned on the TV. You're the
Yeah,
one who listened to, you're the one who watched the debate. Because I have friends now, like, the debate just happened 2 nights ago, and everyone's fighting about the debate. And I'm like, I didn't even watch the debate,
I
but I
didn't
watched the
too.
highlights.
Yeah,
I watched the highlights later just to see what's going on, but I'm not emotionally like upset by any of it. But other people are all arguing online, and I'm like, I'm just watching everybody. I'm like, this. It's like a mass hypnosis.
it is big. It is big, and it
It's
is crazy because when I hear you speak, it never happened like that in my mind. But I made a link between, like you said, there is a bigger stuff that want to control, and it's like,
yeah,
or is it happened the same thing within us with our ego?
within us.
You
Yep,
know, the ego is creating like anxiety on problem that the ego has created. So the ego becomes also the solution. But if you just like whoop, take a little
yep,
space and take a breath and just like come back into your own truth, which
yeah.
is what you are trying to create in the world on the external. If we all do that on the internal, I think the
On the
external
internal,
will change automatically. But
it
that's the
does. It
game.
does. That's the game, and that's why that's what's that line? It's like the external universe, or is it a reflection of the internal
Yeah, yeah,
universe, right?
yes,
Like, that's what we're
exactly.
basically saying, and it's like no one can make you feel a certain, like we said this earlier, like it's only up to us to choose to participate in
Yep.
being and allowing these type of things to cause us to do that. Now if something's coming up inside of us, it's not because of someone else. Now they might have been the catalyst or the stimulus, but what's coming up is still the thing that was already inside of us in the first place, and they just happen to be the trigger for it. And so we get to now listen, we get to like learn from that and say, hey, thank you, Donald Trump, or thank you, Kamala Harris, thank you, debate, for thank you for triggering the war that I have inside myself. Let
Hmm.
me take a look at myself more and see what it is I got going on inside of me to transcend even more, because over time I've noticed I'm not triggered by any of this stuff, but maybe I used to be. So I'm watching this stuff, and I'm more like laughing, like, oh, this is a hilarious like play, like Game of Thrones, or like some comedy Shakespeare thing that's playing, instead of going like, oh my God, I can't believe they said that. He's so stupid. She's so stupid. Like, I'm just watching. I'm like, to me, I'm actually like watching the whole thing and laughing, not from, again, from a disconnection or lack of empathy, but more from observing a comedic play on life itself that everyone's taking so seriously, that at the end of the
Hmm.
day, it's not like, yeah, sure, war is serious, people dying is serious, and I have
Yep.
the compassion and empathy is real, but the cerebral gymnastics around it and about it is separate, and that part is a comedy of errors. And
Hmm.
Shakespeare has a whole thing, the comedy of errors. It's very Shakespearean, and you notice in the great Shakespearean master works that he created, it's all a play of tragedy and comedy blended together.
Hmm.
And that's what Shakespeare was creating, was beautiful art that was a blend of even the saddest stories. Hamlet, Macbeth had these silly elements of comedy mixed in. Romeo and Juliet's a tragic story, but it's also a love story, and it has comedy. It's all mixed in together, and life is a reflection. Like, life imitates art, art imitates life. And here we are watching this now Shakespearean thing play out, these Star Wars type stories play out, and we can be watching them as observers and going, what are they going to do? Or we can go, what are we going to do? What character are we in the movie? And how can I be a protagonist? How can I be a superhero in this movie now instead of being a victim to these other people? Let me step up. Let me be the character. Let me show up in DC in a couple weeks and say as much powerful things I can say and sing as many powerful songs I can sing and inspire as many people. Let me go to the Independent National Convention next week and share myself fully. Let me post online about this stuff, even though it's getting censored because that's what happens. I don't care. I'm going to put it out there and just full on just share myself fully and trust that if I'm being my fullest 150% maximum embodiment of love and service and positive messages and transformation, the universe and the divine and God, everything's all going to fall into place perfectly. I don't need to even think about it. I don't need to worry about what anyone says. I don't need to listen to the haters. I don't need to listen to the doubters. I don't even care. I'm going to do my thing and then just go full force with it.
Yeah, because no matter what's happening, and no matter who is trying to control what, there is always something bigger, I think, that is working
There's
for
something
us.
bigger. And we're just here to serve it. And and we have the opportunity to be our mission, be our purpose, and just like allow that to come through and go back to the silence we talked about and listen to what that might be. And every day, a couple times, I do silence. Every day in the morning, I wake up and I do my breathing, breath work. I do my meditation. I get it. I sit in space, and and then I listen and I hear music or messages. And if it's music, I'll get into songwriting. If it's messages, I'll get into writing and talking. And it might be political messages. It might be philosophical messages. And I just and that's a daily thing. And then like if the day gets a little crazy and maybe it's getting overwhelming, I'll stop again and I'll just go back into silence again for a little while and reset because maybe I've got a deadline or maybe things are getting a little hectic or stressful. I gotta finish this by 4 o'clock, like a music project for the thing and for the movie I'm working on or whatever. And I might be like, oh, let me just breathe a little bit. Let me slow down and be back in the force. And from that place of slowing down and silence, I'll probably be 10 times more efficient anyway. And I'll be actually meet my dead. I'll meet my deadline early. I'll be done by 3 o'clock, and I'll be relaxed at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a way. There's a way to do it there's a way to win and have it all and get your stuff done and have peace at the same time. You can do it's all possible.
Yes, how can the politics and how can the world be a win-win in every situation? Like,
Hmm.
how can companies make money while still serving the world, you know?
I think they can do it. I think we can do it. There's no question. I think an entrepreneur, a lot of the business people are thinking, oh, I don't have time for meditation. I don't have time for that right now. I got to get this stuff done. And I'm like, no, actually, when you do the meditation, you're creating more time.
And you're connecting to
It's
something way much bigger that can give you way more
yeah,
than what you
it's
intellectualize.
it's magical. You're actually like doing a magic trick when if you actually you're like, no, I only have 18 hours in my day, I don't have time. Imagine this. If you're out there, if you're a business person that doesn't think you have time, imagine you meditate in the morning for a half hour and suddenly you're able to get 40 hours worth of stuff done in 16 hours or 8 hours or 6 hours because you're more tuned in and thus more efficient and more connected to divine, and everything just gets done more quickly and easily, and also somehow you created grace and ease and the universe rolls out the red carpet for you and everything that was really difficult becomes suddenly a lot easier because you're tapping into spirit. All of a sudden, like everyone's trying so hard to get there, you don't need to. You can actually slow down and like get there, or whatever there is. You can do it a lot faster and more efficiently from a place of presence. And a lot of people don't believe that. They don't trust that yet.
No, but they didn't try it because as soon as you try it, you don't want to come back to what was before. Like all my ideas, like I'm not big right now, but I'm just following my heart. And all my ideas has come when meditating or during the night. So my podcast started at 3 a.m. in a night, in a dream. And the human garage was in meditation because it was not me. It was not my own limited self. My own limited self won at the end of the day to accomplish like 90 stuff, and I want to go to all my to-dos list, but I'm trying to be more focused on how I was present during the day instead of how much did I did.
Yep. Yep.
And it is a game changer at the end of the day, I think.
That's it. That's literally it. It's like literally just being. It just comes back to this so simple, like just being.
Hmm.
And we're just gonna be here right now, and in the space of being, that's again the silence we talked about. We talked about space, however you want to describe it. It's the place of nothing where everything happens. And then
Mm.
if you just remember that as much as possible throughout our day, things start really flowing. You get synchronicities, you start seeing crazy numbers, you think of your friend, they call you 2 minutes later. I mean, it gets crazy. It starts getting like really weird, you know?
I think I'm not, while hearing you speak, I think I'm not the only one who has this question in mind. Does Deepak sleep?
Yes, a lot less than most people. Probably around 3 hours a day.
Okay.
Um, 3 to 4 hours. And it's usually a very, very peaceful kind of nap in the middle of the night. I
Okay.
don't know when it's gonna be. It's not planned. It's usually I'm in the middle of something, and then eventually I'm like, my body says it's time to sleep, and I'll just sleep on the floor, on the ground, and I'll just lay on the ground flat on my back, and it's actually very good for your back too. But it's good for your body to sleep on the floor on a hard surface, and I just sleep on the floor, and then yeah, and a lot of like amazing things happen, dreams and visions. And then whenever I wake up, I wake up. I don't if it's longer, I don't care. I'm not trying to sleep less, I'm not trying to sleep more. My body just kind of just ready to go down, it goes down, and when it's ready to come up, it goes up, and when it's up, it's ready to go right away. I usually have been lately, it used to be like I'm on right away. What I've been trying to do so that my system is not feeling shocked by that like movement, because I have a
Mm-hmm.
very high energy. I've been intentionally making sure that when I wake up, I'm a little more gentle and I'm slowing down my actual wake up. I'm slowing down. Like basically when I wake up, I'm trying to like not go right back to it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
now trying to go, let me wake up. Let me slowly breathe. Let me sit up. Let me just kind of take in the things like one by one. Let me not touch my phone for about an hour. I'm doing that
Yes,
now. I don't
that
don't
too.
touch my phone at all. I'm not even touching it all now. Um, I make it a rule just like until I'm finished, unless like it's like an emergency, I'm in a rush, I'm on tour. Certain things do come up, but even then, I'm still personally responsible. I could plan to wake up earlier, right? I can wake up
Mm-hmm.
an hour earlier. I have that, we have the power to do that. It's not like, oh, I can't do it, I'm on tour. No, like I can wake up earlier an hour, you know? But that said, I like to make sure that first things I'm doing is now breathing, meditating, staring at the sun, being
Mm-hmm.
barefoot. I have, just, and then from there, allowing the day to have that type of momentum versus like oh, I gotta get back to the world momentum, because that has an anxiety. You don't want to start the day with like shocking the spirit and
Mm-hmm.
stress with anxiety. I'm gonna start the day like very much in a place of gentle spirituality and slowing down. And then now I'm noticing the days just have this beautiful kind of flow to them. That's it's different. Don't get me wrong. I've been productive doing it the other way too. And just the mindset and like the whole mindset thing is cool, but I'm again coming to the place where it's important to start slowing down, to be more in the spirit, to not let just it be adrenaline and just mind and ambition like driving me, but more like the divine energy and the emotion and connecting to the heart and breathing and allowing that to be the main energy, and trusting that all the intellect and cerebral stuff's gonna it's already been I've already done all that work on the mind. It's not going anywhere. It's and trust that I'm not going to stop. I'm always going to be intellectual. Let me put my focus now on a different area and
On
just
the
allow
heart.
myself to be more balanced.
Amazing. Amazing, man. Brother, I want to be conscious about your time and really mindful about it. So, are you good for
I'm good, man. If
15,
you got
20 minutes again?
any more things coming up, yeah, feel free to ask, to
All
talk
right.
more, whatever.
I am very curious to know a bit more of the man behind the scene, so the Deepak that we don't know. Um, just curious, what brought you joy, like the small thing, and what brought you tears? What is the thing that moves you right now?
I mean, what you see now is kind of me all the time.
Yeah,
Uh,
right. Yeah, yeah. Now during the conversation, but for someone who don't know you, we see on show and stuff like this. Like, so
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
glad
No,
to
but I
have the
mean,
conversation with you. So, but
yeah,
not
yeah, but I
everyone
mean,
has the
like,
chance. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, yeah, but like this, it's like a lot of it's like just constantly being passionate, uh very excited about things that are happening, no matter what it is, like food, like oh my gosh, the best food, and I cook food, and I love making food, I like growing food. I've been teaching people how to grow food. 14 years I've been
Yeah, you're
growing my
doing
own
your own
food.
sprout and stuff like that. That crazy.
Yeah, making my own sprouts, like whatever. So like a lot of it's just like now that we talked about the general topic of self-empowerment and taking life in your own hands, what does that look like? And each person's going to have a different thing that they want to focus on. So for me, I'm focusing on my health and my wellness. I want to focus on my breathing and my having good water. I want to focus on having good food and then making good food. I focus on making good music and art. I've got my girl, you know, and she's awesome. And she's very similar but different, but very ambitious and does a lot of things. And she's helping with the that INC event, the Independent National Convention next week. She's running the whole
Okay.
marketing for that. So she's
Nice.
actually on the business side of that. I'm coming in as one of the faces and speakers and artists, and I actually connected her to some of those people, and she's got such an amazing ability that they immediately were like, hey, we need you. And so she's like, sure, I'm happy to help. And she took over and became like the one of the main marketing people for the entire convention, for the Independent National Convention, for example. So we end up beautifully being able to do a lot of things together because I'm involved in these events, and she has so many skills. So like a lot of my personal life is like me doing what you're seeing now, doing this, talking about this, focusing on this, making the music. She's doing the same thing in her world. She's downstairs. We're in the same house because we live together. So she's like constantly working all day, and then we take little breaks and we like check in with each other. And then and then obviously we're in a hectic time right now, but once the hectic time goes down because we have the event next week, then we'll have to have we definitely she and I need to catch up on more romantic time and dates and go and get food and stuff like that. We've been taking breaks whenever we can, but it's just been crazy. The last couple of
Yeah.
weeks has just been like insane. This whole month is insane. Because I got a movie coming out on October 10th called
Yeah.
Plandemic the
Pandemic.
Musical. Yeah, I made all the music for that. That's coming out. I'm finishing all the pieces of that. I've got my own solo music coming out with that because I put the music in the movie. So I'm releasing singles, single songs that are in the movie because they're my own songs. So I'm going to be focusing on promoting those. We got the big event in DC for like 500,000 people. We've got the Independent National Convention, and we got a couple of Human Garage events coming up. So it's kind of a hectic time.
Sheesh.
So all I'm really focusing on is like making the content, getting the videos done, working on my marketing, and working on my website, which is behind you, that I'm like literally upgrading right now. And working with my web team, and just kind of like having like a bigger and bigger team to help facilitate all my stuff. I got like a web guy now. I got a PR team, got marketing people, social media. I got a lot of people that are on my team, and the music producers and mixing engineers. So it's like a nice semblance of like awesome people that are aligned with the vision, that I'm friends with, that are all on board to help grow all of this stuff. So that's kind of like all I'm really doing, to be honest. That's like my whole day is just that. Not much more. Every once in a while I eat. I'm not even eating that much, to be honest. I'm like fasting most of the day. I'm drinking water all day. I might have a little bit of sprouts and sauerkraut in the evening or some cooked food, but I'm barely eating right now. I'm just like more in like a meditative, sun gazing, water fasting, like intermittent fasting kind of ketosis state, energized, and just kind of just focus on getting through the finish line here of like the next couple weeks.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And again, we can see like the power of your mind too on the food side and stuff like this, just to be able to not eat and not lose weight also, because I think that you can do that when you are really tuned with yourself. I am not at that place right now. With my whole situation, I've lost like 50 pounds and I am not able to not eat at all. But I love to see what's possible. I love to see like you're an embodiment of like, hey, I'm just listening my body. I'm sleeping 4 hours a day. Yes, of course I meditate, but like I don't eat a lot. And it's kind of a paradox with where we are as a collective right now, where we in the US, I think in average they are like 600 calories over and they sleep like 6 hours, but it's not the same type of sleep, always stress, eating processed food. I know that by listening to you and hearing a lot about you, food has always been in a healthy place in your life. But how would you help someone who food is not like, because it can be difficult for people to make changes. For myself, it's easy because my mom was a naturopath and I've always been interested in what come from nature and doing the best for my temple, my body. But how can you be a space for someone who want to change but don't know why? Like, is there any a little process that you could do with them? Because you don't want to fall in the judgment part and the you're doing something wrong. But how do you
Yep.
do that in a space of love while still helping them committing to new habit that can help them grow as a man or a woman.
Absolutely. And to be clear, by the way, I haven't always eaten healthy all the time. You know,
Yep.
I've eaten like there's been points where I'm eating pizza 2-3 times a day. I'm eating, there was times where I was eating fast food all the time, like McDonald's, like all that kind of stuff. I had like when I was in college, I was, partying in college and drinking alcohol, and then we'd all, smoke weed, and then all of a sudden we're all got munchies, and now we got to eat McDonald's, and it's a cycle because then that makes you hungry, and I did all that stuff. I will be honest, like I
So,
didn't really
so
feel,
sorry to interrupt. At that
yeah,
point, did you feel the effect on your consciousness, your music, your spirituality, your presence, your energy?
honestly, no.
Oh
That's what I'm
no!
gonna say. That's the
Shit.
thing.
Maybe you're
I
just
wish
Superman.
I wish I could say that, and that's the thing. But what I wanted to say is this: I didn't notice it in a blatant way. I noticed it in a deeper way. So this is how I want to explain it. It's like, okay, if my goal is to get to like just feeling good and being an entrepreneur and being successful, then sure, you can actually do some things that are a certain kind of way. You don't have to have like the cleanest diet. You don't, and you can still do that if that's the goal. But if the goal is to like now to get a little bit more deeper and connected and be a better songwriter, for example, then that's another level, like the creative. Then you can maybe like you know, uh, have a little bit of substances, maybe have a little bit of wine or have like a good beer and smoke some weed or something like that, and you become a creative. And that's what happens is a lot of people get caught in these tiers. They're up here and they get caught here. And like, but if you want to get into like deep connection to spirituality on like the deepest, highest level, these things actually are blocks. They block you from going all the way deep. So back to like your question of like during the time when I was eating unhealthy and stuff, I was more focused on ambition at the time. I was spiritually inclined because I was infinite possibility superhero guy, but that was still on the surface. And
Hmm.
so I was able to get away with eating crazy stuff because my adrenaline was processing it all, because my ambition was processing it all, my mindset was processing it all. And it probably wasn't good for my body, but I wasn't even listening to my body. I wasn't in tune with my body because I was focused on the more intellectual. Remember I talked about this. I wasn't even connected that deeply to my emotions at the time either. So even if I was hurting myself with that stuff, I wasn't able to feel it yet because I was so focused on everything being all good and being cerebrally connected and my mind being sharp that that's all I focused on. Meanwhile, this stuff was probably going on. There's probably all this stuff going on underneath that I wasn't aware of until later. Now I notice if I want to go into a deep meditation, but I've had coffee even the day before, now it's a more agitated meditation. So
Okay.
now I'm like more in tune with the lower levels of consciousness. When I say lower, I mean the deeper,
Yeah.
like the deep, which is actually technically the higher levels of
Yeah,
consciousness,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's deeper.
Lower brain
Yeah, yeah.
level, like alpha states
Yeah,
and stuff
like deeper into like, oh, now I'm meditating. And as I'm meditating, the more I get into the deeper realms of spirituality, like I did a 10-day of silence one time called Vipassana, which is 10 days of silent meditation. I've done it a couple times. In that kind of place, the less the toxins, the less outside things you have in your body, the more you're going to be able to go deep. But if you're not even trying to go deep in the first place, you may not be that negatively affected by the toxins now. You might later on, when you get older, have a disease and not realize where it came from. You know what I'm
like that.
saying? That's
Yep.
that's a delayed reaction because you might be able to get away with it for a long time, and your mindset is still 90% of it. So even if you have, there are people that will eat unhealthy, do alcohol, eat kinds of meat, all kind of stuff their whole lives, but they have a positive mindset and they're actually still they're doing okay, so
Mm-hmm.
that's why I don't want to make it so literal, like, oh, because you could also eat vegan and plant-based and be
And
super
being
healthy and
super
eat all this stuff
stressed and
and be stressed and then have
yeah.
cancer because the stress causes cortisol level to go up, and now you've got acidic environment for disease. So it's not it's that's why to answer that's why your question, like when I was eating all that unhealthy stuff, I was still had the mindset. I still had a
Mm.
positive mindset, or like I don't even use the word positive. I had a connected mindset, because
Yeah.
even positive, I don't like to even use positive. Like
No.
it's
Yeah,
bigger
yeah,
than
yeah.
positive.
Yes.
It's more like just being present. It's a present mindset. And so I was able to eat that stuff because I was thinking about like, yeah, I can do it. I can do anything. I'm a superhero. And so like I think I got away with it for a number of years, but eventually I think my spirit said, "Hey, that's enough of that. Why?" It asked deeper questions. Why are you doing that? Oh, you're doing that to prove yourself. You're doing it to show off, or you're doing it to like to test the limits of possibility, which is great. Like, it's great to test the limits of possibility, but there's a point where you don't need to test it anymore. You're like, anything's possible. We got it. Okay, that's enough testing the limits. Let's now focus on a bigger thing than just testing. Let's focus on humanity. Oh, what can we do for humanity? And once you start doing that, then all the showing off, bravado, ego testing stuff kind of starts fading. Like, I went through that phase. I was showing off. Part of it was I was showing off for myself to see what I could do. And then some of it was like, hey, let me show other people what's possible. And then part of it was probably getting the ego of people going, oh my God, I can't believe Deepak did that. You know, like, there's all these parts that are true at the same time. Yeah, part of it was pure and some of it was ego. Both. They were happening at the same time. And I was like, oh, looks like, let me take a look at the ego part now. Oh, am I getting fed? Am I getting fed off people's attention? Am I getting fed off their validation? Then that's not healthy for my spirit. Let me start doing things that aren't for that purpose. And then that took me like years to start slowly breaking those old patterns and habits and shift into like dropping all those things and being in a place, and literally naturally, like, the diet got better. Not because I'm like, I got to improve my diet. It's more because my consciousness shifted, the diet shifted with it. The consciousness shifted, my habits started getting more consistent. The consciousness shifted, I started slowing down and getting more balanced. Like, it just happened all together, all at the same time, like over long term. So to answer now, back to the question,
Yeah, full
how to
circle
tell
to the
someone
beginning.
else,
Yeah.
right? Because about the food, how to tell someone else this, I think forcing yourself to do diets is the pattern a lot of people are in. Was like, because it's becoming like you're forcing yourself, and when you force yourself, the subconscious is going to resist and rebel, and it's going to quit. And that's why 8% of people that start, like, to try to start a new diet quit, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not coming from an authentic, natural place. I think the mindset needs to be shifted for people, and that, because that's how I did it. I shifted my consciousness and shifted my mindset to go, hey, what am I trying to do for the world? What's my highest good? As I do that, what now fits? Do these things fit? Do drugs and alcohol fit? No, they don't fit anymore. So I'm fully sober. I don't do anything because they don't fit. They don't fit anymore. I went through college. I did those things. I experimented. They don't fit. Does unhealthy food fit? It just doesn't fit anymore because my body's a temple and I'm looking to feel a certain type of connection to energy. I'm looking to like looking to live as long as I'm divinely meant to live, so that I can
Mm-hmm.
inspire the world as much as possible. And I'm also looking to help other people, so I want to lead by example. So there's certain things that happen. So, like, the same thing, if someone else is having a challenge around food, I think it's not about trying to force a new diet. I think it's about helping that person step into, like, listening to the body more, slowing down, trying to find out why. Why is there the impulse for food? What are we avoiding that's uncomfortable? Because most of that stuff is always emotional. There's always a reason that someone's like overeating. Because when I did it, I was like, I'm avoiding my emotions, and my mind is going so fast, and I have a mind that's racing so fast. So let me eat a lot to, like, suppress my emotion. And also, eating slows me down. When I eat a bunch of heavy food, it slows my brain down. Makes me a little lethargic, and my mind is so crazy. It was making me anxious back when I was younger, before I like really had a meditation spiritual path, that, like, it was food that I would use to slow me down. And then you realize that's why people are drinking out there. It's to shut down something in the mind. That's why people might smoke weed or do different drugs. It's to turn off certain things and avoid and numb certain things in ourselves that we need to experience. And if we avoid those things, we might feel better for a temporary period of time. We might feel a little bit more comfort for a small window of time. And so I think that eating is almost just like drugs. It's in the same
It
category.
is.
If
It
you're not,
is.
it's the same thing.
Like
And I
sex,
think
like
people,
sports, like training, like everything can be a drug to like calm
everything can
down
be a
or.
drug. Yep, everything can be a drug if we're using it for the purpose that's avoiding something, numbing something, or filling some kind of void. But if we realize that's what's going on, then we can actually have a transformation around food and substances and obsession with certain sports. And then we can go back and revisit those things. It doesn't mean don't do food, it just means don't do sports. Don't do,
Stop eating right now.
yeah, it just means now we can reapproach those things from a different context, and then suddenly do those things with presence and with the body and with awareness and with consciousness and with intention. And then we can now eat. Now when I go to a place and I'm like, if I'm like thinking really fast, I'm very impulsive. I'm like, oh, I want pizza right now. I'm gonna get the pizza. I want to eat pizza. And I'm plant based, so now I'm eating vegan pizza or whatever. But still, it's
Mm-hmm.
still like a thing. But like if I slow down for a second, I might ask, do I really want the pizza? And if I slow down and listen, maybe it is a yes. Then I'll take my time and walk there and I'll eat the pizza with awareness, with love, with
Mm-hmm.
consciousness, and it'll be amazing. And I'll eat it not because I'm like impulsively filling something, but because I'm like experiencing a beautiful, joyful pizza. And it's
And
gonna be
that
awesome.
come
And
without the shame afterward.
there's zero shame, and I might
Exactly.
eat one slice instead of two. I mean, and not because I forced myself to, because my body just said, you know what, have the pizza. It's gonna feel amazing. But I think you're gonna feel better, Deepak, if you eat just one slice and just enjoy and take your time and eat it slowly and chew every bite and close your eyes and savor it and feel it. And I'm gonna get a lot more fulfillment. That's why the word is fulfillment, right? I'm gonna get filled more fully by slowing down my bites and tasting every bite. Because if you eat really fast, that's why people are eating so much, because they're eating so fast too. Because
Hmm.
you're not getting filled with all of the taste and all of the enjoyment that you can get with. If you notice, like America eats big portions and people eat fast and they shove the food down. They're not chewing that much, you know. And I'm like,
They
if
didn't
that'll,
enjoy. They don't enjoy and at all either.
yeah, or they're enjoying it from a place of anxiety, from like a rush. It's
Hmm.
like we're rushing it in there. It's like, it's like, and it's like slow down and like chew it, and it's like, man, I'm like, this is an amazing bite. Or I take a bite out of an apple and I close my eyes and I'm like, whoa, nature made that. That's amazing. And I'll like get so full eating like one apple now. Or I'll eat like even a couple grapes and I'm like, whoa. Like that's amazing. And that's what I'm saying. Like that's like the long answer to the food question is like slow down and listen, and all of a sudden all that food
And
stuff
listen.
will immediately change. Immediately change.
Thank you, man. It is quite of a complete answer. Thank you, man. And before we close off, I have like my 5 final questions. But just before, how can people find more about you? How can we help you? Like, yes, everything about you, where we can find you.
Sure. Pretty much, I'm under my name Deepak, spelled Dpak, just 4 letters. All of my stuff is Deepak World. So there's Deepak World, and so
Okay.
that's everything's Deepak World on Instagram. Deepak World, I have it right behind me right there. You got Deepak World on Instagram,
Yes.
Deepak World on TikTok, YouTube, X. Everything's DeepakWorld.com, right? So DeepakWorld.com is right there. That's what I'm working on right now. That's the easiest place to find me, because if you go there, it leads to everything. It leads all the social medias in one place. The
Everything.
videos are one place. But Instagram's like where I'm the most active, I'd say. I'm always posting on Instagram a couple times a day, letting people know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But also, bigger than Deepak World, I've started a community called Team Humanity, and I haven't fully launched it yet, but
Okay.
I'm growing the Team Humanity community. So I have teamhumanity.me, teamhumanity.world. Right now, they're all still pointing to Deepak World, but the goal is to create an interactive community where people can talk and share and have access to information and truth and have it be uncensored. I'm going to try to tap in with some decentralized people and blockchain people and really build something that's sustainable, that can't be censored.
I love that, man. I want to be part of that community for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And
Um,
it's everyone's community, so it's not mine.
bef-
It's just basically it's for everybody. It'll be
yes.
fully
No, no.
decentralized. Yeah.
All right, that's very nice, man. So before my 4 question about me, my 4 question to you, you have to ask me like one question. This is like a little concept on my show. So whatever you want to ask, I had to be true to myself and answer it.
Okay. That question is, what is your vision in having a podcast? Like what and deeper than that is why and how did you end up coming up with the idea to have a podcast?
So I don't know why, but it has always been a dream of mine. Even if I was going to play pro hockey, I wanted to have a podcast. But my vision evolved during the last couple of years with what I am going through and everything. And during my time being homesick and stuff like this, I had a lot of journey to just be out there 5 to 6 hours in nature with myself without anything. And I was just processing my mind, just processing life, listening to like Alan Watts, Peter Crown, real philosophical and great-minded people. And at one point, I had like some breakthrough epiphany for who I am, and I was not the man I thought I was. And I saw a lot of fear within myself. I saw where I failed again. Um, I saw where I struggle as a man. And in the beginning, it was not about having people on my show. It was just about me being real, true, and authentic with people so that people can be true and authentic with themselves and look at themselves in the mirror. So in the beginning, that was my only vision, like to be, drink, it's like drinking like a little coffee around a fire in camping. So something really pure and raw. That was my intention in the beginning, and it grows also. And I was like, oh, and that's why my podcast is called The Open Show with Michael, because it's just about being fucking raw and authentic. And it grows, and I was like, I love to connect with people. I love to learn from people. I am building my coaching business right now, and I love to see how people, like, I can learn from everyone. I'm looking at children, baby, you, anyone, homesick people, and I can learn. And I'm like, how can I help other people learn too with my experience, with others' experience? And I was like, all right, I will have people. So, and even at the Human Garage event, like, I took my balls in my hand to just go speak with you because you are like a figure in the world. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like, I just started my podcast. I am a nobody in this world. And I'm like, no, fuck that. The people that will see the show will be the one that needed to see the show. And if I can make the change in one people's life, that's that's the biggest gift I can. So that will be my answer.
Amazing. I love it. I'm glad you came to talk to me, and then now here we are. So, and that's a
Yes.
lesson for everybody out there. I mean, if you feel the thought of restraint or doubt, all that is a test to see how much you want something. And if you listen to that, then you don't want it that bad. And if you really want it, you'll just be like, "Hey, thanks for a little thought, but I'm gonna keep going." You know.
Yep, exactly. So my four last questions, um, more quick questions. So the first one is a metaphor. You just complete my sentence. Life is.
Beautiful.
I love that. The second one is, what is one thing that you are scared that people see about you?
That I'm not authentic.
Great. Um, if tonight I could pray for you, what should I pray for?
For me to be in the ultimate clarity with my message and lyrics and songs for the world.
I will pray for you tonight, of course. And lastly, are you familiar with calces?
What's that?
Do you know calces?
What? How do you spell that?
K Y Lecease.
Maybe not. I'm not sure.
Okay, so go look at that man. He is a beautiful man. I was at one of
Cool.
the event called the Big One 1 month ago
Oh,
at
cool.
the Alex Theater in Los Angeles, and
Nice.
he introduced us to a concept called a caligo, which is you speak like if you were in the future, so in 1 year frame, but you speak
Mm.
like if you were like in the present. Do you understand?
Oh yeah,
So
totally.
so
That's
so
that's kind of how I do all most of my work. Actually, just like that.
great. So I would love you, if you are open to and your heart is aligned with it, to do like we will speak for you for 1 minute. We will do a caligo.
Okay,
You down? So
sounds
Deepak, do
good.
you remember like 1 year ago we were speaking at the event, and then like tell me what happened during that year.
Oh man, it was crazy. I ended up at this event in DC and I performed for a beautiful crowd of people, for 300, 400,000 people, which became the launch of my career to a whole new level. I was able to launch my project, Deepak, and a few weeks later I launched this anthem to the world called Together We Rise. And it
Okay.
became like a unity anthem for the world. And it came out like last year in October, around October 17th. My movie Plandemic came out on the 10th, like a year ago, last October. Plandemic, the musical came out, and then my song came out, and all of a sudden it hit the world, and I was invited to podcasts, and I was able to speak, and in that last year, it's been an amazing year, because like so many people have now starting to get the message, and they've come forward and they've reached out and they said, hey man, like we really love that song, thanks so much for sharing that, it really inspired me to want to like build unity, and I was able to like start loving my family again, and I was fighting with my neighbor about politics and we stopped fighting now, and I started getting all these testimonials where so many people all over the world that used to fight that are starting to like love each other again, and I'm like I'm just seeing it. It's been like a year and I feel like it's created such a massive impact, so I'm excited for the next year. But it's been a crazy year. I've played so many concerts now, and I was able to tour the world, played about 80 different shows, bunch of stadiums sold out, and I'm ready for more. It's been a good year.
Brother, I'm very blessed to have you on my show. I love you, man. Honestly, I'm saying that with my heart. I love your vision. I love you not just for what you do, but for the man that you are in this world. And I just want to share how much I hope that your vision impact people, because we deserve to hear more from you. Thank you, man.
Oh, well, thank you, and I appreciate you and your youthful spirit, and that you're stepping up and you're doing the thing, man. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for creating this podcast and for the work you're doing and working with Human Garage and coaching. And the world needs this type of energy. Like the new generation needs to come and step up, and you're doing it, man. So congratulations.
Thank you, man. Have a nice day.
You too, brother.
Wow, what an amazing conversation it has been. If it's resonated with you like it did for me, please share this episode, click the follow button, just let a review, and also, most importantly, go support Deepak's vision and connect with what he is doing. Your heart will flourish naturally. I promise. With that being said, I will let you on his song Refugees of Love. And again, may peace and love be with you. Bye bye.
We'll sing our songs and then, like ghosts, we'll slip away. Oh, you have your own life. Let's give the angels time. And I'm holding you tight. We'll leave the past behind. And where do we go? We're all refugees of love. We're refugees of love. And what do we know? We're all refugees of love. We're refugees of love. The sea, it has no mercy. We're floating in our fear. Behind a veil of darkness, we say our prayers and we disappear. Oh, you have your own life, so let's give the angels time. Yeah, let's give them time. And I'm holding you tight. We'll leave the past behind. So just close your eyes and let it go. There's no compromise, and now we know that we are refugees of love. We're refugees of love. just close